I grew up in Glendale, California, and when my dad came down here, he had a cousin who was Howard Hughes, business manager at that time. And Howard Hughes was in his early 20s, and my dad's cousin was in his 40s. At any rate, my dad's cousin Cliff Broughton had ideas about making some movies, and he was trying to get Howard Hughes interested, and at that time he was not interested, so he got my dad interested, and so they ended up making 3 pictures, and my dad was the money behind it, knew nothing about it. He was a civil engineer, and apparently they were the 3 worst pictures that had ever been made in Hollywood, because they were all flops. A man got a hold of him who he had done some work for up in San Francisco on 2 or 3 developments, housing developments, and L.W. Coffey was his name, and he had this great idea about an area down in the desert across from Palm Springs, up in the side of the hill, side of the valley. And he told my dad all about it, and my dad went down and investigated and did a whole bunch of research about it, and he finally decided that L.W. Coffey was right, that this was a fantastic idea, and it was the real McCoy. And Coffey wanted him then, offered him a job to come down and survey the area and lay out a town, which he was going to call Desert Hot Springs. And my 2 brothers and I were in high school at the time, and my dad was the civil engineer, the surveyor, and we were his chainmen. And I remember one of the first memories I have is that cholla cactus doesn't, you don't walk into it, it jumps out at you. Of course, if you're surveying an area, it has to be in a straight line, and you have to go to an exact point. As a result, we walked right through cactus on, and this went on for some months, and my dad really knew what he was doing and was excited, and the whole family was upbeat. So at any rate, we worked down there for maybe about 6 months, off and on. My dad, I remember he had a big table at home, used up one of the bedrooms as an office, and drew maps, and then we'd go back down and we'd find different spots. There was only one road, and the rest of it was just dirt. There was a road that went on east. Could it have been called Pearson Road, or we went north from Garnet to this road that went on east, and that was the only road, and there was kind of a path up to Bill Anderson's house. It was open and it had been cleaned, and we could drive up there. But I remember the whole area was just beautiful, and I can remember being there when the wind was roaring through the valley, and Palm Springs, you couldn't even see it. It was obliterated, and there was just a slight breeze there. And this was the main thing that enthused my father, was the fact that the sun came up at Desert Hot Springs probably an hour earlier than it came up in Palm Springs. At any rate, what happened to our family was finally, when the project just about got finished, at least my dad's part of it, he needed some money because we kids were still supporting the family, and turned out Coffey didn't have a dime. And as a result, it just about killed my father, because he had thought this was going to be his life, was going to be down there, and he was going to be this top engineer again and going to be able to pursue it, and he ended up with nothing. Didn't know it, but I had a front row seat at the beginning of one time in the world, one place in the world place, which is Desert Hot Springs. I'm impressed with it now, and I was thrilled when I went down, and that was when I met you, and I think we were both surprised what our backgrounds were.
Well, I'm 86 now, and we came in 30, and I must have been in my 20s, I guess. It was just beautiful. There wasn't anything at all. I think probably there's about a half a dozen homes out here, and there were no paved streets at all. Excuse me. Just two dirt ruts going clear into Palm Springs down to the Indian store, which was the only store over there at that particular time. And I've got pictures. I should have brought them probably. It shows all the dirt roads, and we moved into a little shack. My stepfather sold butane out here when we came up here, and he had a little old tin, kept his stuff in, so he gave it to my husband and I, and we fixed it up, and that's what we lived in until we finally built it into a house.
Stepfather was a very famous guy here.
Yeah, Bill Tarbutton. In fact, he and my husband drilled a hot well for the Angelview Crippled Children's Hospital and donated the whole thing to him. Yeah, he was a water witch, and he really was. He could go on a piece of property and tell the person exactly where to drill, how far down he would have to go, and how hot the water was, and how many gallons per minute they would get out of that well. He only missed once. Bored. You know something, I don't have enough time to do all the things I want to do. You saw how big my front yard is. That's probably about close to an acre. I got 2.5 acres there. Well, by the time I get all that done and all the other things, and I was into crafts, I was into beadwork and all that kind of junk, I don't have enough time to do everything. I had more time when I was working. I think because you kind of box your time off, so much time for this and so much time for that, where when you're retired, you don't have to do that. But I love it. I wouldn't trade it for anything in the world. And I never used any of my sick leave, so that went into my retirement, so I got a good retirement. So the post office did all right by me.
Oh, I really don't know how that happened. Sidewinder had been open about a year, and we were in there, Bob and I were in there having breakfast one morning, and Angelo came out, the owner, and he said, "I hear you have pictures of Desert Hot Springs." I said, "Yeah." He said, "Well, I'd like to put them on the wall." And that started it, and we've been doing it ever since, every time I find another one. I just found one the other day, an aerial of 1937 vintage of Desert Hot Springs. And there was really nothing here then, so. You'd get up in the morning, if you weren't going to school, you did what you could to find something interesting to do. Well, Cabot was the original home, one of the original homesteaders here. And he had on Miracle Hill, he had his first home called the Eagle's Nest. And then he started building, I think it was 42 that he started building the Pueblo. And I used to go up there, and Dad would take me up and drop me off, and I'd watch him work on the Pueblo. He's a very interesting man, but the day he walked up and picked up a rattlesnake in front of me, it scared me. I wasn't too sure whether I wanted to go back anymore, but I did. But he was a very nice guy. Well, let's put it this way. Before Desert Hot Springs was a city, the whole city thing was hot mineral water. I swam from 1946 probably to 1954 every day in coffee's hot mineral water. And all the advertising that went out of town, everything was based on the hot mineral water. When it became a city, somebody took the hot mineral water and put it in the back closet, and it's still there. But all they want to do now is sell lots and get more taxes. They're not interested in advertising what's good for this town. What do I like the most about Desert Hot Springs? It's in the desert.
My mother and dad continued coming back and forth for many years. And finally, in the late 50s, they wanted me to come with them. And we came out and stayed at the Burwood Lodge. It's up in the Highlands. The Highlands 5 was just being subdivided. And they had property for sale. And my dad would get up early in the morning and he'd go walking. And finally he said to me, he said, "I want you to see what I think I'm going to buy." I said, "Buy, Dad? Here?" Well, I said, I guess I could tolerate it just on, you know, vacation time. We went up there, and the view between Beach and Catalpa are the 3 lots that he bought. Beautiful. The view was gorgeous, and you could see the whole lower valley. And there was probably only about 900 people at the time living here. It was probably 5 years before my mother and dad actually decided to come out here. And in the meantime, I got married, and I wanted no part of Desert Hot Springs.
As Buzz Gamble, I think, said in the Valley Breeze, you could have been named Citizen of the Year any number of years.
Flattery.
How does that make you feel?
Great. I tell you, I just never dreamt that this would happen to me. I was the Woman of the Year in 1982. And that was for a reason, because I was elected to the school board, which had never been accomplished by anyone in Desert Hot Springs. So when we went to the dinner, installation dinner, we had a table for the water district, Mission Springs Water District, and the manager, who lives in Highland, said to me, "Well," he says, "Madam Chairman," he says, "who do you think is going to be the Person of the Year, or Citizen of the Year?" I said, "Well, I know it's not going to be me." So Colleen Peters, who is president of the chamber, she started talking about the individual, and she went on how active she is and all this and this, and I thought, gee, what is that? And all of a sudden she said the key word, the first woman president of the chamber in 1976. I looked at Joe and I said, "That's me." I was thrilled. I figured the Woman of the Year was an honor, and you just don't get 2 honors like that. But for years on the water board, I knew that there were things that we could do for the citizens of Desert Hot Springs that the city couldn't do, and yet there were things that they could do that we couldn't do. And with the 2 of us working together, perhaps we could achieve our goals.
Now the bones and joints, the surfaces of the joints, for instance, have no circulation at all. They have to get their circulation, the cartilage has to come from absorption around the edges of the joints and from the synovial membrane. And when you heat that synovial membrane by getting the hot water up to your neck, you're increasing the flow of blood into the joints and muscles many times. Well, when you're in that water at 102 to 105, you increase that temperature about 30 degrees. And this has increased about 3 times the amount of blood flow temporarily that's going into your muscles and bones and joints. Then when you go out and cool off again, and we say after you've been in the hot water for 5 or 10 minutes, you get out and cool off. But stay out until you feel a little cold and chilly, then go back in a second time. This time you don't have to stay in so long to get warmed up. You maybe warm up in 5 minutes. Then get out of the pool and go over in the other pool and exercise and swim and move your joints around. And let the water support your body until you feel you're limbered up, until you're maybe tired. Or get out if it's a nice day and walk for a while until you're tired. Then go back in the hot pool a 3rd time for maybe about 5 minutes. Get thoroughly warm and then go dry off, lie down and rest for a while. Now that is what we call the 3-dip method. You don't do that just once a day. If you are like my patients that come here from different parts of the country, they spend about 2 weeks here for treatment and then they go ahead and follow their routine at home with their family doctors. They do this 3 times a day, and each time they go in for 3 times. That's 9 dips in the hot pool a day. 9 times a day You're heating your body off and then cooling it off, heating it up and cooling it off. And this is the thing that limbers up the joints. It takes the stiffness out, it improves the circulation, relieves pain, relieves stiffness, and it improves your digestion. And people worry about their hearts and blood pressure. Well, in the hot water, if you will take your own pulse, you'll find it goes a little faster. And that's just like an automobile going downhill. When a car is going downhill, you know, the engine speeds up a little, maybe makes a little more noise. So you may feel your pulse there, and you may feel a little pounding in your chest because your heart is coasting, it's going downhill. The blood vessels have opened up, so the heart is going a little faster, but it's doing less work. So we've never had, Lord hear me, keep with me, we've never had a person die in a hot pool here in Desert Hot Springs, no matter what their heart cardiac condition is, because it improves their circulation and heart to go in the hot water.